Samantha didn't know her 45-year-old mafia husband was standing outside her bedroom door when she told her best friend on the phone, "He's old, he's cold, and I guarantee you he can't even make me scream in bed. I'll die of boredom before I ever feel anything with him." The line went silent, and that's when she heard it. A low, dark chuckle from the hallway that made every hair on her body stand up, followed by the door slowly opening to reveal the Ice King of Boston, leaning against the frame with a smile that promised violence and something far more dangerous. "Is that what you think, Mrs. Kang?" he asked, his voice deadly calm as he stepped into the room and locked the door behind him with a click that sounded like a death sentence. "Let's test that theory right now, and if you scream my name before sunrise, you'll spend the rest of your life taking back every word you just said." By the way, family, if you enjoy these stories and want to support the channel, you can join as a member or send a super thanks, totally optional. Your support helps me post more for you. The church bells rang like a death sentence. Samantha stood at the altar in a white dress she didn't choose, staring at the man who had bought her like cattle. Kang Daywan looked like he was carved from ice and shadows, 45 years old, tall, with sharp cheekbones and eyes that could freeze blood. His black suit probably cost more than her entire village back in Tanzania earned in a year. 300 people filled the Boston Cathedral, but Samantha had never felt more alone. "Do you take this man to be your lawfully wedded husband?" the priest asked, her throat closed up. Behind Daywan stood rows of dangerous-looking men in expensive suits, all watching her with dead eyes. These were the criminals her father had gotten tangled with, the ones who threatened to kill her entire family unless she agreed to this nightmare. Her mother's tear-stained face flashed through her mind, her little brother begging her not to go. She had no choice. "I do," she whispered, the words tasting like poison. Daywan's face showed nothing, no happiness, no satisfaction, nothing. He slid a massive diamond ring onto her shaking finger like he was signing a business contract. When the priest said he could kiss the bride, Daywan barely brushed his lips against her cheek. Cold, distant, terrifying. The reception was worse. People congratulated them while Samantha felt like screaming. She sat at the head table, unable to eat, watching her new husband talk business with scary men who kept glancing at her like she was a shiny new toy. An older Korean woman with cruel eyes kept staring at her from across the room, whispering to the people around her. The woman's hate was so thick Samantha could taste it. "Smile," Daywan said suddenly, his first words to her in hours. "People are watching." "I don't care," Samantha shot back, surprised by her own courage. His eyebrow raised slightly. "Brave. That might keep you alive or get you killed. We'll see which." The wedding ended near midnight. Daywan's driver took them to a mansion in Brookline that looked like a castle. Enormous iron gates, security cameras everywhere, guards patrolling with guns barely hidden under their jackets. This wasn't a home. It was a prison painted pretty. Inside, the house was all marble floors and expensive artwork, everything cold and perfect, just like its owner. A maid showed Samantha to the master bedroom, a huge space with a bed big enough for 10 people. Her small suitcase from Tanzania looked ridiculous in the corner, a reminder of how far from home she really was. She changed into the white nightgown the maids had left out, her hands trembling. This was it. The moment she'd been dreading since her father came home with the terrible news 3 months ago. She was 19, had never even kissed a boy properly, and now she was expected to share a bed with a crime lord old enough to be her father. The door opened. Daywan walked in, already loosening his tie. He'd taken off his jacket, and she could see how broad his shoulders were, how his shirt stretched across his chest. He looked at her standing by the window, and something flickered in his eyes, something that made her heart pound. "So," he said, pouring himself whiskey from a crystal bottle, "here we are." All the fear and anger that had been building inside Samantha suddenly exploded. "I won't pretend to be happy. You bought me like I'm nothing, married me when I'm young enough to be your daughter, and you think I'll just accept this?" "I don't think anything," Daywan replied calmly, sipping his drink. "I know exactly what this is. A business arrangement." "Business?" Samantha's voice rose. "You took me from my home, from my family, from my entire life. And for what? To be your toy?" "Watch your tone," he said. But there was no real anger in it, more like boredom. That made her even madder. "Or what? You'll hurt me? Do whatever you want anyway. Well, let me tell you something, Kang Daywan. You can force me to marry you, you can trap me in this huge empty house, but you can't make me want you. You can't make me scream in bed. I'll never give you that satisfaction." The words hung in the air between them. Samantha's chest heaved, her whole body shaking with rage and terror mixed together. She'd said it, thrown down her only weapon, the one thing she could still control. Daywan set down his glass very slowly. He walked toward her, and Samantha's breath caught. This was it. He was going to punish her for talking back, for defying him. She pressed herself against the window, trying to be brave even though her knees felt like water. He stopped 2 feet away. Up close, she could see tiny scars on his face, marks from a violent life. His eyes, dark and unreadable, studied her like she was a puzzle he couldn't figure out. "You're right," he said quietly. Samantha blinked. "What?" "I can't make you want me. I can't force you to feel anything." He turned away, heading toward the door. "I don't want to." "Where are you going?" "To another room." "Sleep peacefully, Samantha. No one will touch you tonight." He paused at the door, his back to her. "Your family is safe now. The debt is paid. That's all this marriage needed to accomplish. But everyone expects that we will be together tonight, that you will claim your purchased bride like some medieval king." The words came out confused, almost disappointed. Though she didn't understand why, Daywan looked back at her over his shoulder. For just a second, his mask cracked, and she saw something raw underneath. Loneliness, old pain, exhaustion. "I've taken many things in my life, Samantha. I've done terrible things to survive and build my empire. But I don't take that. Not from anyone. Not ever." He pulled a key from his pocket. "This locks from the outside. You're trapped here, yes, but you're safe from me, from everyone. Sleep." He walked out. The lock clicked. Samantha stood frozen, her mind spinning. What kind of monster shows mercy? What kind of criminal refuses his wedding night? She'd prepared herself for horror, for pain, for violation. Instead, she got locked in like a princess in a tower and left completely alone. She climbed into the enormous bed, still wearing the nightgown, and stared at the ceiling. The sheets smelled expensive, like lavender and money. Everything in this room cost more than her family would see in a lifetime, yet she'd never felt poorer. Why had he walked away? Was it a trick? Some kind of game to make her trust him before he struck? Or was the Ice King of Boston actually capable of human decency? Samantha touched her lips, remembering that barely there kiss at the altar. Her first kiss, stolen by a stranger in front of hundreds of people. She should hate him. She did hate him. But that look in his eyes just now, that flash of something broken and sad, it confused everything. Outside her locked door, she heard footsteps. Daywan pacing the hallway like a caged animal, back and forth, until finally the sound faded away. Samantha pulled the covers up to her chin. Tomorrow she would figure out how to escape this nightmare. Tonight, She would try not to think about why her heart was beating so fast, or why part of her had been disappointed when he left, or why the most terrifying man in Boston had looked at her like she was something precious he didn't deserve to break. The clock struck 1 in the morning. Her new life had begun, and nothing about it made any sense at all. Morning came too bright and too early. Samantha woke to the sound of the lock clicking open. She sat up fast, pulling the blanket to her chest, but it was just a young Korean maid carrying a breakfast tray. The woman bowed slightly, set the food on a table by the window, and left without saying a word. The lock didn't click again. The door stayed open. Samantha approached the tray carefully, half expecting poison or a trap. Instead, she found eggs cooked perfectly, fresh fruit, toast and Tanzanian tea, her favourite kind. How did he know? Had her father told him everything about her when he sold her off? She ate slowly, watching the door. No one came. After an hour, she gathered her courage and stepped into the hallway. The mansion was enormous, with wide corridors and artwork that probably belonged in museums. Everything was too clean, too perfect, like no one actually lived here. "You're awake." The voice made her jump. A thin Korean man in glasses stood nearby, holding a tablet. He looked about 35, dressed sharp, but not as scary as the wedding guests. "I'm Park Sung-min, Mr. Kang's assistant. He asked me to show you around." "Where is he?" Samantha asked, trying to sound braver than she felt. "Working. He owns several businesses in Boston, legitimate ones." Sung-min added quickly, though his eyes said otherwise. "You have freedom of the house, the kitchen, library, garden, pool, gym, all available to you, but I can't leave." "No," he admitted. "You cannot leave for your safety." Samantha wanted to laugh. Safety, as if being trapped was protecting her, but she followed Sung-min through the mansion anyway, trying to memorize every exit, every window, every possible escape route. The house had 23 rooms, 5 bathrooms, a wine cellar, and a library with books in 6 languages. Everything screamed wealth and power. In the kitchen, she met 3 staff members who all bowed to her and called her Mrs. Kang. The title made her sick. In the garden, she found roses and cherry trees and a koi pond. Beautiful, but surrounded by high walls topped with cameras. A lovely cage was still a cage. "Mr. Kang left instructions that you may request anything you need," Sung-min said. "Clothes, books, food from your country. He wants you comfortable." "I want to go home." Sung-min's face showed pity. "That's the one thing he cannot give you." Samantha spent the rest of the day exploring alone. She found Daywan's office locked tight, his bedroom much smaller and simpler than hers, a weapons room hidden behind a bookshelf, filled with guns that made her stomach turn. This wasn't just a crime lord's house, it was a fortress. Evening came. The staff served her dinner in a formal dining room with a table that could seat 30 people. She sat at one end, completely alone, eating food she couldn't taste. This was her life now. Luxury without freedom. Safety without choice. At 8 o'clock, the front door opened. Samantha heard voices, footsteps. Her heart started racing. Daywan was home. She stayed in the dining room, not sure if she should hide or confront him, or just pretend he didn't exist. He appeared in the doorway, still wearing a suit, looking exhausted. There was blood on his knuckles, small drops, barely visible, but definitely blood. Their eyes met across the long table. "You ate," he said, like that mattered. "Your staff is very efficient." "Good." He turned to leave. "That's it." Samantha stood up. "You're just going to walk away again? Not even explain what I'm doing here or what you expect from me?" Daywan stopped. "I expect nothing. You're here because your father owed Victor Kozlov $300,000. Victor planned to take you as payment in a very different way. I paid the debt and married you instead. You're safer with me than you would have been with him. That's all." The words hit her like cold water. "Viktor Kozlov, the Russian gangster." Yes, he runs half the crime in Boston. Drugs, weapons, trafficking. Your father borrowed from the wrong man. Daywan's voice stayed flat, emotionless. "Victor doesn't forgive debts. He would have broken you." Samantha sat back down, her legs weak. "So you're what, my hero? You expect me to be grateful?" "I expect nothing," he repeated. "But yes, I am the better option. That's not saying much." He left before she could respond. Samantha sat alone in the huge dining room, trying to process everything. Her father had doomed her to either a Russian monster or a Korean one. Some choice. But Daywan's words echoed in her head. He'd protected her in his twisted way. He'd saved her. Days blurred together. Samantha saw Daywan only at breakfast, and even then, they barely spoke. He read newspapers in Korean and English, drank black coffee, and disappeared into his mysterious business. She spent time reading, swimming in the indoor pool, and staring at her phone, which could only make local calls. Her family's numbers were blocked. On the 5th day, she confronted Sung-min. "I want to call my mother. Mr. Kang says no contact for the first month, for safety." Safety or control? Sung-min's silence answered everything. That night, Samantha couldn't sleep. She wandered the house in her nightgown, ending up in the library. To her surprise, Daywan was there, sitting in a leather chair, drinking whiskey, staring at nothing. He looked different without his suit jacket. More human, more tired. "Can't sleep?" he asked without looking at her. "Can you?" She shot back. "Haven't slept properly in 15 years. Samantha sat in a chair across from him, keeping distance between them. "Why did you really marry me? Don't give me the protection speech. You could have paid my father's debt without taking a wife." Daywan finally looked at her, really looked at her. His eyes traced her face like he was memorizing it. "Victor wanted you specifically. When he wants something, he doesn't stop until he gets it, or someone takes it first. If I'd just paid the money, he would have found another excuse to claim you. Marriage was the only way to mark you as completely off limits. So I'm marked now. Property transferred from my father to you. In the world I live in, yes, that's exactly what you are." He took a long drink. "I'm not going to lie and pretend this is romance or rescue. You're a chess piece I removed from Victor's board. That's all." The honesty hurt worse than pretty lies would have. Samantha felt tears burning behind her eyes but refused to let them fall. "You're a horrible man." "Yes," Daywan agreed. "I am." They sat in silence. The clock ticked. Outside, rain started falling. "What happened 15 years ago?" Samantha asked quietly. "Why can't you sleep?" His face went hard. "That's none of your concern. We're married. Your demons are my demons now, whether I like it or not." Daywan stood up abruptly. "You know nothing about demons. Stay innocent, Samantha. It's better that way." He headed for the door, then paused. "Tomorrow, Sung-min will take you shopping. Get whatever you need. Clothes, books, anything. Consider it payment for your cooperation." "I don't want your money." "Then suffer in the clothes you brought from Tanzania. I don't care either way." He disappeared into the dark hallway. Samantha threw a pillow at the spot where he'd been standing. Frustrating, cold, impossible man. But underneath her anger, curiosity grew. What had broken him so badly? What turned a person into ice? The next morning, Sung-min took her to expensive stores in downtown Boston. Everywhere they went, people recognized him and treated them like royalty. Or like danger. Samantha noticed how shop owners' hands shook when they saw Sung-min's face, how they rushed to help, how no one ever asked for payment. The Kang name opened every door and closed every mouth. Does everyone fear him? Samantha asked as they walked through a boutique. Fear and respect are the same in our world. Sung-min replied. That's sad. He looked at her with surprise. Mr. Kang would say it's necessary. Samantha tried on dresses she never would have imagined owning, silk and cashmere and fabrics that felt like water. She hated that part of her enjoyed it, hated that she caught herself wondering if Daywan would think she looked pretty in the blue dress or the red one. They were leaving the last store when Samantha spotted a Tanzanian restaurant across the street. Her heart squeezed. Can we go there? Please? Sung-min hesitated. Mr. Kang wants you back before dark. Just for a few minutes. I need to hear my language, see my people. He couldn't refuse her desperate face. They crossed the street and entered the small restaurant. The smell of home cooking hit Samantha like a wave. Ugali, nyama choma, pilau. Tears filled her eyes. An older Tanzanian woman came over, speaking Swahili, asking if they needed a table. Samantha responded in the same language, and the woman's face lit up. They talked about home, about Boston, about being far from family. It felt like medicine. For 10 minutes, Samantha forgot about her nightmare marriage and just felt human again. Then she noticed the woman's expression change. Fear crept into her eyes. She was looking past Samantha toward the door. Samantha turned. A tall white man with cold blue eyes stood in the entrance, flanked by 2 others. They weren't customers. They were predators, and they were staring right at her. Time to go, Sung-min said urgently, grabbing her arm, but the men blocked the door. The leader smiled like a shark. Well, the new Mrs. Kang. Victor sends his regards. Everything happened fast. Sung-min pushed Samantha behind him, pulling out a phone. The men advanced. The restaurant owner screamed. Samantha's whole body went cold with terror. This was it. They were going to take her right here in broad daylight. Then the door slammed open again. Daywan walked in like death itself. 3 of his men behind him. His face showed no expression, but the air temperature seemed to drop 10 degrees. Leave, he said quietly. Now. Victor's men hesitated. The leader tried to look tough. We were just saying hello to your wife. No harm meant. Daywan moved so fast, Samantha almost missed it. 1 second, he was by the door. The next, his hand was around the leader's throat, slamming him against the wall. The other men reached for guns, but Daywan's men were faster. Touch her again, Daywan whispered, his voice deadly calm. And I'll send Victor your body parts 1 piece at a time, starting with the parts he values most, understand? The man nodded frantically. Daywan released him, and Victor's crew ran out like scared dogs. The restaurant went silent. Daywan turned to Samantha, his mask back in place. Are you hurt? She shook her head, unable to speak. Good. Let's go. He looked at Sung-min. She doesn't leave the house again without me. In the car ride home, Samantha's hands wouldn't stop shaking. Daywan sat beside her, not touching, not speaking. But she noticed his jaw was clenched tight, a muscle twitching. He was angry, really angry. I'm sorry, she whispered. For what? For leaving the house, for causing trouble. You did nothing wrong. Victor did. He looked out the window. This is why you can't have freedom, Samantha. Every enemy I've made in 20 years will try to hurt me through you now. That's what being my wife means. They reached the mansion. As they walked inside, Samantha noticed the blood on his knuckles again. Fresh this time. He'd fought to reach her, to save her. Thank you, she said quietly. Daywan stopped at the bottom of the stairs. He looked at her for a long moment, something complicated flickering in his eyes. Don't thank me. This life I've forced you into almost got you killed today. But you stopped it. This time. He started up the stairs, then paused. The blue dress. Get the blue one. Samantha blinked. What? From today. The blue dress suited you. He continued up the stairs without another word, leaving her standing in the foyer, completely confused. He'd noticed. He'd been watching her somehow, or Sung-min had told him, and he'd noticed which dress she liked. Her heart did a strange flip that she absolutely did not want to analyse. That night, Samantha lay in bed, thinking about how fast he'd moved to protect her, how deadly he'd looked defending her, how his voice had gone from ice to fire when those men threatened her. Kang Daywan was still her captor, still the man who'd bought her. But maybe, just maybe, he was starting to become something else too. Something far more dangerous than an enemy, something that felt almost like a shield. 2 weeks passed like walking on a tightrope. Samantha stayed in the mansion, safe, but slowly going crazy. She read every book in the library, swam until her arms ached, and watched Boston through windows she couldn't open. Daywan remained distant, polite, and completely unreadable. They ate breakfast together in silence. He asked if she needed anything. She said no. He left for work. She spent another day alone, but something was shifting. She'd catch him watching her when he thought she wasn't looking. He'd started buying Tanzanian snacks and leaving them in the kitchen without comment. Once she found a book of Swahili poetry on her nightstand. He never mentioned it. She never thanked him. But she read every page twice. The nightmares started in the 3rd week. Samantha would wake up gasping, dreaming about Victor's men grabbing her, hurting her, taking her somewhere dark. She'd remember her father's face when he told her about the debt, how broken he'd looked, how he'd cried and begged her forgiveness. In her dreams, she was drowning, and no one could hear her scream. One night, she woke up sobbing. The bedroom felt too big, too empty. Without thinking, she got up and wandered through the dark house. Her feet took her to Daywan's room. She stood outside his door, hand raised to knock, feeling stupid. What would she even say? I'm scared and you're the only person here. The door opened before she could knock. Daywan stood there in just black pants, his chest bare. Samantha's breath caught. She'd never seen him without a shirt. His body was covered in scars, some small, some huge, a map of violence written on skin. But underneath the damage, he was solid muscle, strong and real. Can't sleep? He asked, his voice rough from sleep. Nightmares, she admitted, about that day. He studied her tear-stained face. Something in his expression softened, just slightly. Come in. I'll make tea. His bedroom surprised her. It was simple, almost bare. A bed, a dresser, one chair. No decoration, no personality. Like he didn't really live here, just existed. He had a small kitchen area and made Tanzanian tea without asking if that's what she wanted. He already knew. They sat on opposite sides of the room, drinking in silence. The clock said 3 in the morning. Outside, Boston slept, but inside this room, 2 strangers pretended not to be lonely. How many scars do you have? Samantha asked suddenly. I stopped counting at 50. Does it hurt? Still. Some of them, the old ones, mostly just ache when it rains. He touched a long scar across his ribs. This one almost killed me. Knife fight 8 years ago. Why do you live like this? You're rich. You could do anything, go anywhere. Why stay in this violent world? Daywan's eyes went distant. Because it's the only world that makes sense to me anymore. I tried leaving once. It didn't work out. The thing from 15 years ago. Yes. Will you tell me? He was quiet for so long, she thought he wouldn't answer. Then he spoke. his voice barely above a whisper. Her name was Yoon Seo-yoon. I was 30. She was 28. I was already in deep with the family business, but I was trying to get out, trying to go legitimate for her. We were going to get married, move away from Boston, start clean. Samantha's chest tightened. What happened? My enemies used her to get to me. Took her one night when I was away on business. By the time I found her, it was too late. His hand clenched around his cup. They'd hurt her in ways I can't describe. When I finally reached her, she was dying. Last thing she said was that she loved me and it wasn't my fault. But it was. I'd brought danger into her life. I'd killed her by loving her. Tears rolled down Samantha's face. I'm so sorry. I buried her and buried that part of myself with her. Promised I'd never let anyone close again, never risk another person's life with my presence. He looked at Samantha directly. That's why I left you alone on our wedding night. Why I keep distance. I won't make the same mistake twice. But you married me anyway. To save you from Victor. That's different. You're protection, not attachment. As long as I don't care, you're safe. The words should have hurt, but Samantha understood the logic. In his broken mind, not caring was love. Distance was protection. He'd turned himself to ice to keep from burning anyone else. That's a lonely way to live, she said softly. Loneliness doesn't kill people. I do. They sat in heavy silence. Samantha wanted to argue, to tell him he deserved happiness, that his past didn't have to be his future. But she didn't have the right. She barely knew him. And part of her was starting to care in ways that terrified her. The nightmares will pass, Daywan said finally. Your mind is processing trauma. Give it time. Do yours ever pass? Your nightmares? No, but I deserve mine. Samantha stood up. Thank you for the tea and for telling me. As she headed to the door, Daywan spoke again. Samantha, you're stronger than you think. You've survived things that would have broken most people. Don't let fear win. She turned back. In the dim light, he looked almost human, almost vulnerable. You too, she said. Their eyes held for a moment too long. Something electric passed between them, something neither of them wanted to name. Then Samantha left, her heart beating strangely. The next day, Daywan announced they were attending a charity event. It's expected. We need to appear as a normal married couple. Victor will be watching for any sign of weakness. Samantha wanted to refuse, but she saw the logic. If she stayed hidden, it looked like she was a prisoner or unhappy. Better to play the role convincingly. The staff brought in a stylist who dressed her in a gorgeous emerald gown that hugged her curves perfectly. When Samantha looked in the mirror, she barely recognized herself. She looked expensive, powerful, like she belonged in Daywan's world. His reaction when he saw her made her breath stop. His eyes widened just slightly, his jaw tightened, and he stared at her like she'd appeared out of thin air. You look remarkable, he said, his voice rougher than normal. Thank you, she managed. He looked incredible too, in a dark suit that made him seem even more dangerous and handsome. The charity gala was in Cambridge, held at a museum. Hundreds of Boston's elite mingled, drinking champagne, making deals, pretending to care about whatever cause they were supporting tonight. Samantha felt eyes on her constantly. Everyone wanted to see Kang Daywan's mysterious new wife. Daywan kept his hand on the small of her back, guiding her through crowds, introducing her to politicians, business owners, and people whose eyes screamed danger. She played her part perfectly, smiling, being polite, acting like she chose this life. Then Victor Kozlov appeared. He was shorter than Samantha expected, maybe 55, with silver hair and eyes like a dead fish. He approached with a beautiful woman on his arm, his smile friendly but his gaze predatory. Kang, my friend. Congratulations on your marriage. His eyes slid to Samantha. Such a beautiful bride. You're a lucky man. Very lucky. Daywan agreed, his hand tightening protectively on Samantha's waist. My wife is everything I could want. I'm sure she is. Victor's stare made Samantha's skin crawl. Pity about the arrangement with her father. I had such wonderful plans. Those plans are dead, Daywan said flatly. Find another obsession. Victor laughed like it was all a joke, but the threat hung in the air. Of course. Though I must say, if you ever tire of married life, I'm always interested in acquiring beautiful things. Daywan stepped forward, his body shielding Samantha completely. Touch her, think about her, even dream about her, and I'll make sure you never wake up. Are we clear? The room seemed to hold its breath. Other conversations stopped. People turned to watch. Victor's smile never wavered, but his eyes went cold as Siberian winter. Crystal clear, my friend. No disrespect intended. He walked away. Daywan stood rigid, breathing hard, fighting for control. Samantha touched his arm gently. I'm okay. He didn't hurt me. Not yet. But he wants to. Badly. Daywan looked down at her. We need to leave. Now. They made it halfway to the exit when the lights went out. Screaming erupted. Gunshots rang out. Samantha felt Daywan grab her, pulling her down, covering her body with his own. Glass shattered somewhere. More shots. Chaos everywhere. Stay down, he commanded, his body wrapped. Around hers completely. She could feel his heart pounding, his muscles tense, ready to fight or die to protect her. The emergency lights kicked on. Daywan's men surrounded them instantly, forming a human shield. Boss! We need to move! Sungmin shouted. They rushed toward a side exit. Behind them, more gunfire. Daywan kept Samantha pressed against his chest, moving fast, but keeping her covered. They burst out into an alley where their car waited. He shoved her inside, dove in after her, and the driver peeled away. Only when they were blocks away did Daywan let go. Samantha was shaking uncontrollably. What happened? Who was shooting? Victor sending a message. If he can't have you, he'll try to kill you. Blood ran down Daywan's arm. He'd been hit. You're hurt. Samantha grabbed his arm, her hands shaking. It's nothing. Just grazed me. It's not nothing. You're bleeding. Back at the mansion, Samantha insisted on cleaning his wound. In the bathroom, under bright lights, she carefully washed the bullet graze on his shoulder. It wasn't deep, but it had to hurt. Daywan sat perfectly still, watching her hands work, watching her worried face. Why did you cover me? She asked quietly, dabbing antiseptic on the wound. You could have been killed. That's my job, protecting you. No, your job was to marry me and keep my family safe. You did that. You don't owe me your life. His hand caught hers, stopping her movement. Their faces were inches apart. She could see flecks of gold in his dark eyes, could feel the heat of his body, could smell his cologne mixed with gunpowder and blood. Maybe I want to protect you anyway, he said, his voice low and rough. Why? I don't know. The air between them crackled with something dangerous. Samantha's heart raced. She shouldn't want this, shouldn't want him. He was still her captor, still the man who'd taken her freedom. But he'd also saved her life twice now, had shared his deepest pain, had looked at her like she mattered. Daywan's thumb brushed across her cheek, gentle despite his scarred hands. You're crying again. I almost lost you tonight. You don't have me. We're not real, remember? Then why does it feel real? He didn't answer. Instead, he leaned forward slowly, giving her time to pull away. Samantha didn't move, couldn't move. When his lips touched hers, soft and questioning, Her entire world tilted. The kiss was nothing like their wedding peck. This was real, searching, careful, but full of heat. His hand cupped her face, while hers gripped his uninjured shoulder. They were both trembling, both terrified, both wanting something they shouldn't. When they finally broke apart, both breathless, Daywan pressed his forehead to hers. "This is a mistake. I can't care about you. It puts you in danger." "I'm already in danger." "More danger?" "I don't care." "You should." But he kissed her again, harder this time, like a man breaking a promise to himself, like a man who'd been starving for 15 years and finally found food. Samantha kissed him back with everything she had. All her fear and loneliness and confusion poured into that kiss. When his arms wrapped around her waist, pulling her closer, she felt safer than she had in months, which was crazy because this man was anything but safe. They pulled apart again, both breathing hard. Daywan's eyes were dark with want and fear mixed together. "We can't do this." "Why not?" "Because I'm falling for you." The confession sounded like an accusation. "And everyone I fall for dies." Samantha's heart squeezed. "I'm not her. I'm not Seo Yoon." "I know. That's what terrifies me." He stood up abruptly, putting distance between them. "Go to bed, Samantha. Pretend this didn't happen." "I can't do that." "Then try harder." He walked out, leaving her alone in the bathroom, her lips still tingling, her heart breaking and soaring at the same time. Samantha touched her mouth, still feeling his kiss. Everything was more complicated now. The walls between them had cracks. The ice was melting. And she had no idea if that would save them or destroy them both. One thing was certain, though. She was falling too. Falling for a broken man who thought he was beyond saving. Falling for the monster who was somehow becoming her hero. And there was no going back from this edge. Morning came with regret written all over Daywan's face. At breakfast, he wouldn't meet Samantha's eyes. He read his newspaper like a shield, answered her questions with one word, and left for work without their normal, stiff goodbye. The message was clear. Last night's kiss was a mistake they'd both pretend never happened. Samantha felt anger burn through her confusion. How dare he kiss her like she mattered, confess he was falling for her, then treat her like a stranger when the sun came up. She was tired of being pushed and pulled, wanted and rejected. If he thought she'd just sit quietly and play the obedient wife, he was about to learn differently. "Sungmin," she said after Daywan left, "I want to go out." The assistant looked nervous. "Mr. Kang said you're to stay inside until he figures out the Victor situation." "I don't care what Mr. Kang said. I'm going out. He'll be very angry with me. Then I'll tell him I forced you. Please, Sung-min. I'm going crazy trapped in here. I need to do something useful, something that matters." His face softened. For all his loyalty to Daywan, Sung-min wasn't heartless. "Where do you want to go?" That's how Samantha found herself at the Tanzanian Community Centre in Roxbury 2 hours later. The building was small but bright, filled with East African families, kids running around, women cooking familiar food. The director, a Tanzanian grandmother named Grace, welcomed Samantha with open arms. "We desperately need teachers," Grace explained. "So many children here struggle with English, with adjusting to American schools. If you could teach them, help them keep connection to home while learning their new world, it would be a blessing." Samantha felt purpose flood through her for the first time in 2 months. "I'd love to help." She spent the afternoon teaching 10 children basic Swahili literacy, playing games, singing songs from home. The kids' laughter filled holes in her heart she didn't know existed. This was what she'd dreamed of before her world collapsed. Making a difference, using her education, being more than just a pretty object in a rich man's house. When Sung-min finally said they needed to leave, Samantha promised the children she'd come back. Grace hugged her tight. "You're special, child. I can see it. Whatever brought you to Boston, there's a reason." On the drive home, Samantha felt lighter than she had in months. She'd found her purpose, found her place. Nothing Daywan said would stop her from going back. She walked into the mansion, humming, her arms full of drawings the children had made for her. The happiness died when she saw Daywan standing in the foyer, face like thunder, still in his suit from work, but with his tie loosened and rage in every line of his body. "Where were you?" His voice was deadly quiet. "Out, teaching children at the community centre. I specifically said you stay inside until Victor is handled." "I didn't agree to that." Samantha set down the drawings carefully. "I'm not a doll you put on a shelf, Daywan. I need a life. You need to stay alive. Do you have any idea what could have happened? Victor's people could have grabbed you, killed you, hurt those children to get to you." He was yelling now, the control he always maintained completely gone. "I have 30 men trying to keep you safe, and you just walk out like it's a game." "It's not a game. It's my life. The one you took from me," Samantha shouted back. "You don't get to buy me, lock me up, kiss me like I'm precious, then tell me to sit quietly in my cage. I won't do it." That kiss was a mistake. Then why did it feel like the only real thing that's happened since I got here? Daywan froze. His jaw worked like he was grinding his teeth to powder. "Because I'm weak. Because 15 years of discipline disappeared the second you looked at me with those eyes. But it can't happen again." "Why not?" "Because I'll get you killed." He swept his arm across a side table, sending expensive vases crashing to the floor. The sound echoed through the mansion. "Everyone I love dies, Samantha. Everyone. My parents, murdered. Seoyun, tortured. Every person who gets close to me ends up bleeding because of who I am. I won't do that to you." Tears streamed down Samantha's face. "Then let me go. If caring about me is so dangerous, let me leave. Send me back to Tanzania." "I can't." His voice broke. "Victor will never stop hunting you. The only thing keeping you alive is being my wife. If I let you go, he takes you within a week. At least here, I can protect you." "This isn't protection. It's another prison." "Then hate me." Daywan stepped closer, his eyes wild with pain and fear. "Hate me. Curse me. Blame me for ruining your life. But stay alive. That's all I ask." They stood inches apart, both breathing hard, both crying now. Samantha saw past his anger to the terror underneath. He wasn't mad she'd gone out. He was terrified she'd been hurt. Every harsh word came from fear of losing her like he'd lost everyone else. "I don't hate you," she whispered. "I wish I did, but I don't." "You should." His hand came up, almost touching her face, then dropped. "You should hate every second you're near me." "Well, I don't. And you don't get to tell me how to feel." Something in his face crumbled. The Ice King melted right there in the foyer, surrounded by broken glass. "I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to care without destroying." Samantha took his hand, the scarred one that had killed and saved in equal measure. "Then we figure it out together. But you have to let me breathe. Let me have a purpose beyond just existing for your protection. The community centre puts you at risk. Everything puts me at risk. I'm married to you, but I'd rather live dangerously than die slowly of boredom and uselessness." They stood there holding hands, a dangerous crime lord and a stolen bride, both broken, both scared, both refusing to let go. Finally, Daywan sighed, exhaustion replacing anger. 3 conditions. 1, Sung-min, and 2 guards go with you always. 2, you tell me every time you leave and exactly where you're going. 3, if there's any sign of trouble, any threat at all, You stop going until I say it's safe. Hope burst in Samantha's chest. You're saying yes? I'm saying I'll try. Because you're right. I took your life. The least I can do is let you build a new one, even if it terrifies me. She wanted to kiss him, wanted to throw her arms around him and thank him and tell him he wasn't the monster he thought he was. But she held back, knowing he'd just pull away again. Baby steps. They were taking baby steps toward something neither of them could name yet. Thank you, she said simply. Don't thank me yet. I'll probably change my mind 12 times. But his thumb brushed across her knuckles, gentle despite everything. That night, Samantha couldn't sleep again. Not from nightmares this time, but from restless energy. She put on a robe and wandered downstairs, ending up in the kitchen for water. To her surprise, Daywan was there too, sitting at the counter in just pyjama pants, eating cold noodles straight from a container. Can't sleep either, she asked, worrying about stubborn women who don't follow orders, worrying about controlling men who think they're always right. He almost smiled, almost. Sit. I'll make you something. They ended up cooking together, awkward but comfortable. He made Korean food, she made Tanzanian food. They traded bites and laughed when things turned out wrong. For an hour, they weren't captor and captive, criminal and innocent. They were just two lonely people finding unexpected companionship at 3 a.m. Tell me about Tanzania, Daywan said. What was your life like before? Samantha talked about her village, her huge family, her dreams of becoming a teacher, the market where her mother sold crafts. She talked until her throat hurt, and he listened to every word, his eyes never leaving her face. When she asked about his childhood, he told her about growing up in Seoul, moving to America at 15, losing his parents to a rival gang at 17. I was angry and alone and perfect for recruitment into the life, he explained. By 20, I was deep in organised crime. By 25, I ran my own crew. By 30, I controlled half of Boston's underground. And then I met Seo Yun and thought maybe I could change. Clearly, I was wrong. You weren't wrong. They were. The people who hurt her. I enabled it by being who I am. So change now. Become someone different. He looked at her like she'd suggested he fly. It's not that simple. Nothing is, but you could try. They talked until sunrise, painted the kitchen gold. At some point, they'd moved closer, their knees touching, hands almost but not quite holding. When the household started waking up, they separated quickly. But something had shifted again. The walls had more cracks. The ice was melting faster. Over the next 2 weeks, they fell into a new rhythm. Daywan went to work, but he came home earlier. Samantha went to the community centre 3 times a week, teaching and helping and feeling human again. They ate dinner together, actually talking instead of sitting in silence. He told her about his businesses, the legitimate and the less legitimate. She told him about the children, about Grace, about her dreams. They didn't kiss again, didn't touch beyond accidental brushes, but the tension between them grew until it filled every room. Samantha would catch him staring at her over dinner. He'd catch her watching him read. They orbited each other like planets, drawn together, but scared to collide. At the community centre, Samantha became beloved. The children called her Teacher Samantha, and clung to her legs. The parents thanked her for giving their kids confidence. Grace said she was an answer to prayers. For the first time since leaving Tanzania, Samantha felt like herself again. But danger never slept in Daywan's world. On her 8th visit to the centre, Samantha was teaching counting games when Sung Min burst in, his phone pressed to his ear, his face pale. We need to leave, now. What's wrong? Victor's men were spotted 2 blocks away. They're moving toward us. Terror flooded through Samantha, but she forced herself to stay calm. Get the children to the back room. Grace, call the police. The police won't get here in time, Sungmin said. Boss is coming, but we need to secure you first. They rushed her towards the car, the two guards surrounding her. Samantha looked back at the community centre, praying the children would be safe. This was why Daywan had warned her. Her presence brought danger to innocent people. The car peeled out just as black SUVs appeared at the end of the block. Sungmin drove like a madman through Roxbury's streets, taking turns too fast, running lights. Behind them, Victor's men gave chase. They're going to catch us, Samantha said, her voice shaking. No, they won't. Boss will stop them first. As if summoned, 3 more vehicles appeared, blocking Victor's SUVs. Samantha looked back through the rear window and saw Daywan's car slam into the lead vehicle. Men poured out, guns drawn. She couldn't watch, didn't want to see the violence she knew was happening. They made it to the mansion. Sungmin rushed her inside and locked every door. Samantha paced the living room, her heart pounding, waiting for news. An hour passed. 2. Finally, the door opened and Daywan walked in. He was covered in blood. His suit was torn. His knuckles were raw. But he was alive. Samantha ran to him without thinking, throwing her arms around him. You're okay. Oh, God, you're okay. He stood rigid for a second. Then his arms came around her, holding her so tight she could barely breathe. You're safe. That's all that matters. Is anyone hurt? The children. Everyone's fine. Victor's men are handled. They won't bother the centre again. Handled how? You don't want to know. She pulled back to look at his face. Blood was spattered across his cheek, but his eyes were gentle on her. You killed people for me today. I've killed people for less. This was worth it. Samantha should have been horrified, should have run from this man who dealt death so casually. Instead, she felt overwhelming gratitude and something warmer, something dangerous. He'd become her protector in truth, not just in name, and she'd stopped seeing the monster. She only saw the man who'd do anything to keep her safe. Let me clean you up, she said softly. In the bathroom, she gently washed blood from his hands, his face, and his neck. He watched her the entire time, something raw and hungry in his gaze. When she finished, they stood close, breathing each other's air. I can't keep doing this, Daywan said. I can't keep pretending I don't want you. Then stop pretending. If I touch you again, I won't stop. I've been holding back for weeks, Samantha. If these walls come down, there's no rebuilding them. Her heart raced. Maybe they shouldn't be rebuilt. His restraint snapped. He kissed her like a drowning man finding air, desperate and deep. Samantha kissed back with equal hunger, her hands tangling in his hair, his arms crushing her against him. This wasn't gentle or careful. This was need and fear and longing released all at once. They broke apart, both gasping. My room, he managed, unless you want to stop. I don't want to stop. He lifted her easily, carrying her to his simple bedroom, kicking the door closed behind them. They fell onto his bed, together, all the weeks of tension finally breaking free. Everything changed that night in his room, in his bed, in his arms. They weren't perfect or practiced, but they were real. And when morning came, neither of them regretted breaking the walls between them. Sunlight woke Samantha slowly, warmly, differently than any morning before. She was wrapped in strong arms, her head resting on a scarred chest that rose and fell with steady breathing. Daywan's bed, Daywan's embrace. The night came flooding back, making her cheeks burn. They'd crossed every line, shattered every boundary, and she didn't regret a single moment. His hand moved slowly up her bare back, tracing patterns on her skin. You're awake, he said, his voice rough with sleep. So are you. I've been awake for an hour. watching you sleep, trying to figure out if I'm dreaming." Samantha lifted her head to look at him. His face was softer than she'd ever seen it, the harsh lines smoothed by something that looked almost like peace. "Are you sorry?" "No." He cupped her face gently. "I should be. This makes everything more complicated and dangerous. But I'm not sorry." "Good. Neither am I." He kissed her slowly, thoroughly, like they had all the time in the world. When they finally broke apart, both breathless, his eyes had gone dark with want again. "We should get up, face reality. Or we could stay here a little longer." His answer was to roll her beneath him, his mouth finding hers again, his hands exploring like he was memorizing every inch of her. Morning disappeared in heat and need and whispered words that meant everything. Later, much later, they finally emerged from his room. The household staff pretended not to notice Samantha wearing Daywan's shirt, her hair messy, her lips swollen from kissing. Seungmin took one look at them together and smiled knowingly. "Good morning, Mr. Kang, Mrs. Kang." The emphasis on her title made Samantha blush. "Coffee," Daywan said, his hand finding Samantha's naturally, fingers intertwining. "Strong." They ate breakfast together, actually sitting next to each other instead of at opposite ends of the table. His hand stayed on her knee. She leaned into his shoulder. Everything felt different, lighter, real. For the first time since their forced marriage, they looked like an actual couple. "I need to handle some business today," Daywan said reluctantly, "but I'll be home early. We should talk about where this goes from here." "Where do you want it to go?" "Everywhere, which terrifies me." He kissed her forehead. "But I'm done fighting it. You're mine now, Samantha. Truly mine, and I'm yours. We'll figure out the rest together." The words should have scared her, should have reminded her he'd bought her, forced her into this marriage. But that old anger had transformed into something else. Choice. She was choosing him now, choosing this, choosing them. He left for work with one more long kiss that made her knees weak. Samantha floated, through the morning, helping in the kitchen, humming songs, feeling like a completely different person than the terrified girl who'd stood at that altar 2 months ago. Her phone rang at noon. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer, but curiosity won. "Hello? Mrs. Kang, how lovely to finally speak with you directly." The voice was female, cold, cultured. "My name is Lee Hyejin. I'm an old friend of your husband's." Samantha's stomach dropped. Something about the woman's tone felt like poison. "What do you want?" "Just to welcome you to the family, so to speak. Daywan and I have such history together. 7 years working side by side, building his empire. We were quite close, in every way." The implication hit like a slap. That's in the past. "Is it? Men like Daywan don't change, sweetheart. He collected you like he collects everything. Another possession, another tool." Hyejin's laugh was sharp. "Did he tell you about me, about what we had? Or did he conveniently forget to mention the woman who knows him better than anyone?" "I don't believe you. You don't have to. But ask yourself why he married a teenager from Tanzania when he could have any woman. Why you? What purpose do you serve beyond making Victor jealous?" Her voice dropped lower. "You're a pawn, dear. Nothing more. And when this game ends, pawns are always sacrificed first." The call ended. Samantha stood frozen, Hyejin's words echoing in her head. Was she right? Had last night meant nothing to Daywan beyond physical release? Was she really just a convenient wife bought and paid for? No. She'd seen his eyes, felt his touch, heard his confessions. That was real. This woman was trying to plant doubt, trying to destroy what they'd just built. Samantha wouldn't let her win. But when Daywan came home that evening, Samantha couldn't help studying him differently, looking for signs of deception or manipulation. He noticed immediately. "What's wrong?" he asked, setting down his briefcase. "Who's Lee Hye-jin?" His face went carefully blank. "Where did you hear that name?" "She called me today. Said you two were close. Said I'm just a pawn you're using." Daywan's jaw clenched so hard she heard his teeth grind. "What else did she say?" "That you haven't changed. That I'm just another possession." Samantha crossed her arms. "Is it true? Any of it?" "Sit down. I'll tell you everything." They sat in the living room, Daywan pouring himself whiskey before he began. "Hye-jin was my partner 7 years ago. We ran operations together, expanded territory, made a lot of money. She wanted more than business. I made it clear I wasn't interested, that after Seo-yoon, I'd never love anyone again. She said she understood. I thought we were on the same page. But you weren't." "No." "She became obsessed, started making decisions without me, using my name to threaten people, acting like we were married. When I tried to cut her out of operations, she went nuclear, stole money, burned down one of my warehouses, tried to turn my own men against me." His hand tightened around his glass. "I exiled her to Seoul 2 years ago, paid her well to disappear and never return. If she's back in Boston, it's because she wants something. She wants you. She wants power. I'm just the tool to get it." He moved closer, taking Samantha's hands. "Everything she said about you is a lie. You're not a pawn. You're not a possession. What happened between us last night, this morning, it's real. I swear on everything I am." Samantha wanted to believe him, needed to believe him. But doubt had wormed its way into her heart. "How do I know you're not just saying what I want to hear?" Pain flashed across his face. "Because I'm terrible at lying about feelings. Ask anyone who knows me. I'm cold, distant, honest to a fault. If I didn't care about you, I'd say so. The fact that I'm here, terrified and vulnerable and completely out of my depth, should tell you everything." She studied his eyes, looking for deception, found only raw honesty. "I believe you, but Daywan, if Hye-jin is back and wants to destroy us, we're in danger. I know. I'll handle her. How? However I have to." The darkness in his voice reminded her exactly who she'd fallen for. A man capable of terrible things, a man who'd kill to protect what was his. That night, they made love again, but differently, slower, deeper, like they were cementing their bond against outside threats. Daywan worshipped every inch of her, murmuring words in Korean she didn't understand, but felt in her soul. When she fell apart in his arms, crying his name, he held her like she was the most precious thing in his world. "I love you," he whispered into her hair afterward. "I didn't want to. I fought it with everything in me. But I love you, Samantha. And I'll burn down anyone who tries to take you from me." "I love you too," she admitted, the words scary and wonderful, "even though you're impossible and controlling and you bought me like property. I'll spend the rest of my life making up for that. I promise." They fell asleep, tangled together, but peace didn't last long. At 3 a.m, Daywan's phone exploded with calls. He answered, his voice sharp. "What happened?" Samantha watched his face go from annoyed to furious to murderous in seconds. "I'm coming now. Lock it down. Nobody leaves." "What's wrong?" she asked as he threw on clothes. "One of my warehouses is on fire. Hye-jin's signature move." He grabbed his gun from a hidden safe. "Stay here. Don't open the door for anyone except Sung-min." "I'm coming with you." "Absolutely not. You're not leaving me alone when she's targeting us." Samantha was already dressing. "I'm safer with you than sitting here waiting for her to make a move." He wanted to argue but couldn't. They drove through dark Boston streets to a warehouse in Southie, Flames lit up the night sky, sirens wailing. Daywan's men stood around looking helpless while firefighters worked. How bad? Daywan demanded. Total loss, boss. Everything inside is gone. But we found this. His lieutenant held up a note, singed at the edges. It was nailed to the door before the fire started. Daywan read it, his face going stone cold. He handed it to Samantha. The message was simple, written in elegant handwriting. What burns brightest dies fastest. Give her up or watch everything you love turn to ash. Your move, darling. She's insane, Samantha breathed. She's dangerous, Daywan corrected. And she just declared war. Over the next week, attacks escalated. Another warehouse burned. 3 of Daywan's legitimate businesses were vandalized. His cars were keyed. His suppliers threatened. His allies pressured to turn against him. Hyejin was dismantling his empire piece by piece, always leaving notes taunting him to give up his wife. Daywan became obsessed with protecting Samantha, surrounding her with guards, barely sleeping, checking every corner for threats. The stress aged him years in days. Their intimate moments became rare, stolen between crisis after crisis. You should let me go, Samantha said one exhausted evening. Send me away somewhere safe. Stop giving her a target. No, that's exactly what she wants. If I send you away, I lose you forever. I'd rather burn my entire empire than lose you. But your people are suffering. Your businesses are dying. I can rebuild businesses. I can't rebuild you. He pulled her close, his embrace desperate. I've lost everyone I loved. I won't survive losing you too. Samantha held him tight, feeling the tremors in his strong body. This powerful crime lord was breaking under the weight of protecting her. She had to do something, had to end this somehow. The next afternoon, while Daywan met with his advisors, Samantha made a decision. She called the number Hyejin had used before. The woman answered on the first ring. Well, the little wife wants to chat. Meet me, just us. No guards, no weapons. Let's talk woman to woman. Hyejin laughed. Brave, stupid but brave. Fine. Boston Common, the fountain, 1 hour. Come alone or I disappear. Samantha left a note for Daywan and slipped out through the garden, avoiding the guards. She took a taxi to Boston Common, her heart pounding. This was reckless, dangerous, probably suicidal, but she had to try to end this without more violence. Hyejin waited by the fountain, stunning in a red coat, her black hair perfect, her smile cruel. She looked about 40, beautiful and cold as ice. So, the mouse has teeth. I'm impressed. What do you want, really? Samantha asked. Daywan, money, power, all of it. But mostly, I want him to suffer like I suffered. Loving someone who'll never love you back. It destroys you slowly. Hyejin circled Samantha like a predator. You're young and pretty. And everything I wasn't. He looks at you the way he never looked at me. So, yes, I want you gone. I want him devastated. I want everything he built to crumble. That's not love. That's obsession. Call it what you want, but I've already won, sweetie. Look behind you. Samantha turned. 3 men stood there blocking her escape. Victor's men. Her blood turned to ice. You're working with Victor. Of course, the enemy of my enemy and all that. We both want to destroy Daywan. Combining our resources made sense. Hyejin nodded to the men. Take her. Let's see how the Ice King melts when his little wife screams. Samantha tried to run, but they caught her easily, dragging her toward a black van. She screamed, fought, kicked, but they were too strong. A cloth covered her face, sickeningly sweet smell filling her nose. The world went fuzzy, then dark. Her last thought before consciousness left was Daywan's face. and how badly she'd just broken her promise to stay safe. Samantha woke to darkness and pain. Her head throbbed where they'd hit her. Her wrists were tied behind her back, rough rope cutting into skin. She was sitting on a cold concrete floor in what looked like an abandoned building, moonlight trickling through broken windows. Every muscle in her body ached. "She's awake!" Victor's voice came from the shadows. He stepped into the light, flanked by guards, his smile pleasant and terrifying. "Welcome, Mrs. Kang. We've been waiting." Samantha's throat was dry, but she forced words out. "Daywan will kill you for this. Eventually, perhaps. But first, he'll suffer. That's the real goal here." Victor crouched down to her level. "You see, Hee-jin wants him emotionally destroyed. I want him dead. Together, we get both. You're the perfect bait. He won't fall for it. He's too smart. He's already falling for it." Victor showed her his phone, a photo of her unconscious being loaded into the van. "We sent this to him 3 hours ago with a simple message. His empire or his wife. He has 24 hours to decide." Terror flooded through Samantha, but she kept her face steady. "He'll choose his empire. He's a businessman first. We'll see. Hye-jin seems convinced he's gone soft for you. If she's right, this will break him beautifully." Victor stood up. "Make yourself comfortable. You'll be here a while." They left her alone in the dark room, one guard by the door. Samantha tested the ropes, trying to loosen them, but whoever tied these knots knew what they were doing. She was trapped, helpless, exactly what she'd sworn she'd never be again. Hours crawled by. Her shoulders screamed from the awkward position. Hunger and thirst made her dizzy, but worse than physical pain was the guilt eating her alive. She'd been so stupid, thinking she could handle Hye-jin alone. Now Daywan had to choose between everything he'd built and saving her, and she had no idea which he'd pick. Meanwhile, across the city, Daywan was coming apart. He'd found Samantha's note, read her reckless plan, and nearly destroyed his office in rage and terror. By the time he reached Boston Common, she was already gone. The kidnapping photo arrived as he stood by that fountain, and the Ice King shattered completely. "Find her," he ordered Sungmin, his voice shaking. "I don't care what it costs. Burn the entire city down if you have to. Find my wife." Every resource he had mobilized, every contact called in, every debt collected. Daywan's network spread through Boston like wildfire, searching for any sign of Samantha, any clue where Victor and Hee-jin had taken her, but they'd planned carefully, hidden her well. The deadline ticked closer. 18 hours, 12 hours, 6 hours. Daywan hadn't slept or eaten. He sat in his office surrounded by maps and photos, his gun on the desk, murder in his eyes. Sungmin had never seen his boss like this. Broken, desperate, human. "We'll find her," Sungmin promised. "Not in time. They've won." Daywan's hands shook. "I have to choose. My life's work, or the woman I love. What will you do? Whatever it takes to get her back. The empire doesn't matter. Nothing matters except Samantha." Then Sungmin's phone buzzed. A message from an anonymous number with GPS coordinates and 2 words, Quincy Warehouse. "It's a trap," Sungmin said immediately. "I don't care. Get everyone. We're going in." 20 minutes later, they surrounded the abandoned warehouse in Quincy. Daywan's small army against Victor's forces. The building looked dark, empty, but security cameras blinked red. They were being watched. Daywan's phone rang. Victor's number. "Kang. Glad you could make it. Your wife is inside. 2nd floor, east room. But here's the fun part. The building is wired with explosives. You have 10 minutes to find her and get out before everything blows. Oh, and my men are inside waiting. Good luck." The call ended. Daywan didn't hesitate. He ran toward the building, his men covering him. Gunfire erupted immediately. Victor's guards had positions throughout the warehouse, turning it into a shooting gallery. But Daywan fought through them like a man possessed, taking hits but not stopping, not slowing, thinking only of Samantha. He reached the second floor, blood running down his arm from a graze. East room. He kicked the door open. Samantha was there, tied to a chair, tape over her mouth, her eyes wide with terror and relief. "I've got you," he said, rushing to her, cutting the ropes with his knife. "I've got you. You're safe now." She fell into his arms, sobbing. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I thought I could end it. No time. We need to run. Now." He scooped her up and ran for the stairs. Behind them, Victor's voice echoed over speakers. 5 minutes. They made it to the first floor. More guards blocked the exit. Daywan set Samantha down, shielded her with his body, and fired with deadly accuracy. His men pushed forward, clearing a path. They burst out of the building with seconds to spare. The explosion was massive. The warehouse erupted in flames and thunder, glass shattering, walls collapsing. Daywan threw himself over Samantha, protecting her from the blast. Heat and debris rained down. Then silence except for crackling fire. He lifted his head. "Are you hurt?" "No." "You?" "I'm fine." He helped her up, his hands checking her for injuries, his eyes wild. "Don't ever do something that stupid again. Ever." "I won't. I promise." She kissed him desperately. "I thought I'd never see you again. I'd tear the world apart to find you. Don't you understand that yet?" He held her face between his bloody hands. "You're everything, Samantha, everything." Around them, the warehouse burned. Victor's men were either dead or scattered, but this wasn't over. Victor and Hyejin had escaped. They were still out there, still dangerous. Back at the mansion, doctors checked Samantha, while Daywan prowled like a caged animal, refusing treatment for his own wounds until she was cleared. When the doctors finally left, he collapsed next to her on the bed, exhausted and shaking. "I failed you," he said quietly. "I promised to protect you and I let them take you." "You saved me! That's what matters." "I almost didn't. If that tip about the location had been wrong, if we'd been 1 minute slower, you'd be dead. Because of me. Because you're connected to me." Samantha took his face in her hands, forcing him to look at her. "Stop blaming yourself. We're both alive. We're both here. That's what matters." But over the next days, despite her words, something changed. Daywan became distant again, pulling back emotionally even while staying physically close. He assigned more guards, tightened security, but the warmth between them cooled. He was protecting her body while cutting off his heart. "Talk to me," Samantha begged one night. "Don't shut me out. I can't lose you again. The only way to prevent that is to keep distance. That's not distance, that's fear. Call it what you want, but I won't survive another day like that. So I'm doing what I should have done from the start, keeping you safe by keeping you away from my heart. You can't undo loving someone. Watch me." He left the room, left her alone, just like their first weeks, except this time Samantha knew what she was missing, knew how he kissed, how he held her, how he loved her. And now he was taking it all back. Then everything got worse. Someone leaked information to Daywan's network, secret deals, hidden accounts, illegal operations. The information was detailed, accurate, damaging. Within days, federal agents were investigating him. Business partners pulled out. Allies turned suspicious. "Where's this coming from?" Daywan demanded. His inner circle gathered. "The leak had to come from inside," Sungmin said carefully. "Someone close to you, someone with access to everything." All eyes turned to Samantha. She felt her stomach drop. No, you can't think I would do this. You were alone for hours with Victor and Hyejin. One of his lieutenants said. They could have gotten information from you, or turned you. I didn't tell them anything. I was unconscious half the time. But doubt had entered the room. Even Daywan's face showed conflict. He wanted to believe her, but couldn't ignore the evidence. The leak had started right after her kidnapping. The information matched things she'd overheard living in his house. Daywan, please, Samantha begged. I would never betray you. I love you. Love isn't always enough, he said coldly. Sungmin, move her to the guest wing. She stays there until we figure this out. You're isolating me. Like a prisoner? I'm protecting my operation. If you're innocent, you'll be cleared. If not, well, you won't like what happens. Samantha felt her world crumbling. She was moved to a different part of the mansion. Guards outside her door, treated like a criminal. Even the staff looked at her with suspicion. The man who'd sworn he loved her now treated her like an enemy. Days of isolation followed. No phone, no visitors, except staff bringing food. Samantha spent hours crying, then got angry, then determined. She was innocent. She would prove it. But how? Finally, Sungmin visited. I don't believe you're guilty, he said quietly. But I need you to think. Is there any detail from your kidnapping that might help us find the real leak? Samantha thought hard. Victor mentioned having someone inside Daywan's organization. He was too confident, too informed. And Hyejin, she kept checking her phone, smiling at messages, like she was coordinating with someone. Who would have access to everything and motive to hurt Daywan? Then it clicked. Someone who loved him and felt rejected. Someone who's been planning revenge for 2 years. Sungmin. What if Hyejin never left? What if she's been working inside the organization this whole time through a proxy? His eyes widened. One of our people. Someone loyal who she turned or planted. They started investigating Daywan's inner circle. It took 2 days, but they found him. A lieutenant named Kim who'd joined 18 months ago with perfect credentials, except those credentials were fake, created by Hyejin. He was her plant, feeding her everything, setting up Samantha to take the fall. When confronted with evidence, Kim confessed everything. The plan to destroy Daywan from inside while destroying his marriage from outside. Hyejin and Victor working together to break him completely. Daywan stood in his office listening to the confession, his face unreadable. When Kim finished, Daywan looked at Sungmin. Get him out of my sight before I kill him. Then he turned to Samantha, who stood in the doorway. Guilt and regret flooded his expression. I'm sorry. I doubted you. I let fear and suspicion poison what we had. You were protecting yourself. I understand. No, I was being a coward. After everything we've been through, I should have trusted you. Instead, I threw away the best thing in my life because I'm too damaged to recognize love when it's standing right in front of me. Samantha wanted to stay angry, wanted to make him suffer for doubting her, but she saw the pain in his eyes, the self-hatred, the fear of losing her forever. We both made mistakes. I went to meet Hyejin alone. You doubted me. We're even. We're not even close to even. But if you'll forgive me, I'll spend every day making it up to you. She walked into his arms. He held her like she might disappear. I forgive you, but Daywan, we can't keep doing this. Trusting, then doubting, then trusting again. Either we're together for real, completely, or we end this now. Together. Completely. No more walls, no more distance. He kissed her forehead. I'm done fighting what we have. You're my wife, my partner, my everything, and I'll prove it. That night they talked until dawn, laying everything bare, their fears, their hopes, their damaged hearts trying to heal together. It wasn't perfect. They were both still scared, still broken in ways, but they chose each other anyway, chose to fight for this impossible love built on terrible circumstances. And somewhere in the dark, Hyejin and Victor plotted their next move, not knowing that their attempts to tear Daywan and Samantha apart had only made them stronger. The text message arrived at exactly midnight, waking both of them. Daywan grabbed his phone, read it, and his entire body went rigid. Samantha sat up, fear flooding through her. What is it? Victor has Grace, the woman from your community centre, says if we don't come alone to this address in 1 hour, he'll kill her and every family she's ever helped. His voice was deadly calm, but his hands shook with rage. He's forcing our hand. Then we go get her. Samantha was already getting dressed. It's a trap. He wants both of us in one place. I don't care. Grace doesn't deserve to die because of us. Samantha turned to face him. We end this tonight. No more running, no more reacting. We finish Victor and Hyejin once and for all. Daywan looked at his wife, her eyes blazing with determination, and fell in love all over again. Together then, but we do this smart. They had 50 minutes to plan. Daywan called his most trusted men, laying out a strategy. They'd go to the address, a warehouse in Quincy near the water, but his team would surround the building, ready to strike. It was still dangerous, probably suicidal, but they were out of options. The warehouse looked abandoned, dark except for one light on the second floor. Daywan and Samantha walked in hand, both armed, both terrified but refusing to show it. Their footsteps echoed on concrete. Too quiet, too easy. They reached the second floor. Grace was tied to a chair in the centre of a large room, tape over her mouth, terror in her eyes. But she was alive. Relief flooded through Samantha. How touching. Victor emerged from shadows, flanked by 10 armed men. The loving couple comes to save the innocent grandmother. Very heroic. Hyejin appeared from another direction, her smile poisonous. And very stupid. Did you really think we'd let you walk out of here? Let Grace go, Daywan said, calmly, his gun trained on Victor. Your fight is with me. She's nothing to you. She's leverage, insurance, and frankly, I'm tired of playing games. Victor nodded to his men. Kill them both, but make the wife suffer first. Let Daywan watch before he dies. Everything happened at once. Victor's men raised their weapons. Daywan shoved Samantha behind a concrete pillar, returning fire. Glass shattered as his men crashed through windows, ropes descending, guns blazing. The warehouse erupted into chaos. Samantha stayed low, her own weapon ready, her heart pounding. She'd never shot anyone before, but she would tonight if needed. She spotted Grace still tied up in the middle of the firefight and made a decision. While everyone was distracted, she ran. Bullets zipped past her. Someone screamed. She reached Grace, cutting the ropes with a knife from her boot, ripping off the tape. Can you move? Yes, thank God you came. Stay behind me. Samantha led Grace toward the exit, firing twice at men who got too close. She'd never been so terrified, but adrenaline pushed her forward. They made it to the stairwell. Behind them, the battle raged. Daywan fought like a demon, taking down anyone who got close, but he was outnumbered. Samantha got Grace outside where Sungmin waited with a car. Get her to safety, Samantha ordered. What about you? I'm going back for my husband. She ran back inside, despite Sungmin yelling at her to stop. The second floor was carnage now, bodies everywhere. Smoke from gunfire made it hard to see. Samantha searched frantically for Daywan. She found him cornered by Victor and 3 guards. He was bleeding from multiple wounds, but still fighting. Victor had a gun to his head, victory in his eyes. Any last words? Victor asked. Yes. Daywan smiled coldly. Duck. Samantha fired from behind Victor, hitting 2 guards before they could react. Daywan used the distraction to disarm Victor. Slamming him against a wall, they fought brutally, fists and fury. 2 predators finally facing off. Then Hyejin appeared, her gun pointed at Samantha. "Drop your weapon, or I drop you." Samantha froze. Hyejin's face was twisted with hate, her finger on the trigger. This was it. No escape. No miracle. "You took everything from me," Hyejin hissed. "Everything. He was mine." "He was never yours," Samantha said quietly. "You can't own people. Love doesn't work that way." "Love?" Hyejin laughed bitterly. "He doesn't love you. He loves his empire, his power, his control. You're just the newest obsession. When he gets bored, he'll discard you like he discarded me. You're wrong. He chose me over his empire. When you forced him to pick, he picked me without hesitation. That's how I know it's real." Doubt flickered in Hyejin's eyes. She'd been so certain Daywan would sacrifice Samantha, so convinced he was incapable of real love. The truth that she was wrong shattered something in her expression. That moment of hesitation saved Samantha's life. Sungmin shot Hyejin from the doorway, hitting her shoulder, making her drop the gun. She fell, clutching her wound, screaming in rage and pain. Across the room, Daywan finished Victor. The Russian crime lord collapsed, his empire and his life ending on a warehouse floor. It was finally over. Daywan rushed to Samantha, pulling her into his arms, checking her for injuries. "Are you hurt?" "I'm fine. Grace." "Safe." Sungmin got her out. He kissed her desperately. "You came back for me. You should have run." "I'll never run from you again. We're in this together. Remember?" Police sirens wailed in the distance. Daywan's men scattered, taking evidence, cleaning the scene. He'd called in favours, paid off the right people. By the time cops arrived, it would look like a gang war between Victor and Hyejin's people. Nothing connecting back to him. They drove home as sunrise painted Boston gold. Both exhausted, both injured, both alive. At the mansion, doctors treated their wounds while they held hands, refusing to be separated. "It's really over," Samantha whispered. "Not quite. Hyejin survived. She'll be in prison, but she's alive. And there are others who'll try to take Victor's territory now that he's dead. The danger never fully ends in my world. Then we face it together." Over the next weeks, the dust settled. Federal investigations into Daywan mysteriously stalled and dropped. Victor's empire was absorbed by rivals, causing a power vacuum that Daywan carefully didn't fill. He was done with the criminal side, ready to go fully legitimate. Grace recovered from her trauma, stronger than ever. The community centre threw a celebration, honouring Samantha for saving her. The children sang Tanzanian songs, and for the first time since arriving in Boston, Samantha felt like she'd found her true purpose. Daywan attended the celebration with her, uncomfortable around so many innocent people, but proud of his wife. Watching her with the children, seeing her light up with joy, he knew she was the best part of him, the part worth fighting for. That night, alone in their bedroom, they finally had peace. No enemies hunting them, no secrets between them. Just 2 people who'd survived hell together and come out stronger. "I want to renew our vows," Daywan said suddenly. "Do it right this time, in Tanzania, with your family, no guns or threats. A real wedding where you actually choose me." Tears filled Samantha's eyes. "I choose you now. I've been choosing you for weeks. But I want the world to see it. Want your parents to know I didn't steal their daughter. I'm asking for her properly. They'll never approve. You're too old, too dangerous, too different. Then I'll spend years convincing them, however long it takes. You're worth it." She kissed him, putting everything she felt into it. Love and gratitude and hope for a future she never thought possible. When they made love that night, it felt like the first time all over again. Except now, there was trust and safety and the promise of forever. 12 months changed everything. Samantha stood in the Tanzanian heat, surrounded by family she hadn't seen in over a year, wearing a dress her mother had sewn with tears of joy running down her face. The village had transformed for the wedding, decorated with flowers and fabric, filled with music and laughter. Children ran everywhere, excited for the celebration. Daywan waited under a ceremonial arch, nervous in traditional Tanzanian wedding clothes that he wore with surprising grace. He'd spent 6 months learning Swahili, studying customs, meeting with Samantha's father repeatedly to prove his intentions were honourable. It hadn't been easy. Her father had refused to speak to him for the first 3 visits, too angry about what had happened. But Daywan persisted. He'd shown up with gifts, with humility, with proof that he'd left his criminal empire behind. He'd funded a new school in the village, helped relatives start businesses, demonstrated through actions that he loved their daughter and would spend his life making her happy. Eventually, Samantha's father had broken down. "You hurt my family, took my daughter when she was too young, too innocent. I'll never fully forgive that." "I don't ask forgiveness," Daywan had replied. "Only a chance to earn your trust. I know what I did was wrong, but I love her, sir, more than my own life, and I'll protect her and honour her every day we have together. You better, because if you don't, I know people too." It was the closest thing to a blessing Daywan would get, but he took it gratefully. Now, as Samantha walked toward him through her cheering village, Daywan felt emotion choke his throat. She was so beautiful, so radiant, so completely his choice as he was now hers. No force, no transaction, just love built from darkness and pain and determination. The ceremony was long and traditional, mixing Tanzanian customs with a few Korean elements that honoured Daywan's heritage. They exchanged vows in 3 languages: English, Swahili, and Korean. Samantha's little brother, who'd sobbed when she first left, now grinned hugely as he held the wedding rings. "Do you take this man?" the village elder asked in Swahili. "I do," Samantha answered clearly, her eyes never leaving Daywan's. "I choose him freely, proudly, forever." When they were finally pronounced married, for real this time, Daywan kissed his wife like it was their first and last kiss combined. The village erupted in cheers and music. Drums pounded, women danced. It was chaos and joy and everything their first wedding hadn't been. The celebration lasted 3 days. Daywan was terrible at traditional dancing, but tried anyway, making everyone laugh. He ate foods he'd never encountered, drank homemade banana beer, and listened to endless stories about Samantha's childhood. Slowly, impossibly, he was welcomed into her family. On the last night, Samantha's mother pulled Daywan aside. "She glows when she looks at you. Whatever darkness you came from, you've brought her light. That's all a mother needs to see. I'll keep her glowing, I promise." They returned to Boston, different people. Daywan had fully transitioned his businesses, running only legitimate security companies now. It paid less, but let him sleep at night. Samantha had expanded the community centre, opening 2 more locations, becoming a voice for immigrant families throughout Boston. They'd moved from the Fortress Mansion to a normal brownstone in a good neighbourhood, smaller, cosier, without armed guards on every corner. Just a couple building a real life together. 6 months after the Tanzanian wedding, Samantha felt sick for a week straight. At first, she thought it was bad food or stress. Then she missed her cycle. Then she knew. She took 3 tests, all positive, pregnant. She was going to have a baby, Daywan's baby. The thought terrified and thrilled her in equal measure. She told him that night over dinner, watching his face carefully. He froze, fork halfway to his mouth, his eyes wide. "You're serious?" "3 tests don't lie. We're having a baby." He set down his fork very carefully, stood up, and pulled her into his arms so tight she could barely breathe. "I'm going to be a father." "Are you happy? Scared? Angry?" "All of it. Mostly terrified I'll mess this up like I've messed up everything else." He pulled back to look at her, tears in his eyes. "But I want this. Want our child. Want this life with you." They cried together, overwhelmed by joy and fear. That night, Daywan talked to her stomach, making promises to their unborn baby, promises to protect, to love, to be better than his own father had been, promises to give this child a life free from violence and fear. The pregnancy wasn't easy. Samantha had terrible morning sickness and complications that scared them both. But Daywan was there for every doctor visit, every midnight craving, every moment she needed him. He'd already been devoted, but fatherhood made him softer, more open. Park Sung-min, who'd transitioned from crime assistant to legitimate business manager, found the whole thing hilarious. The Ice King melted by pregnancy cravings. Who would have guessed? "Mock me again and you're fired," Daywan said. But he was smiling. 7 months into the pregnancy, they hosted a celebration combining baby shower traditions from America, Tanzania, and Korea. Their brownstone filled with people from all 3 cultures. Grace brought the entire community centre. Daywan's reformed colleagues brought their families. Samantha's parents flew in from Tanzania, her mother instantly taking charge of preparations, watching everyone mingle, watching his wife laugh with joy. Daywan felt something he hadn't felt in 20 years. Peace. Real, deep, lasting peace. The kind that comes from building something good instead of destroying everything dangerous. "You did good," Sung-min said, appearing beside him with a drink. "She saved you." "You know that, right?" "I know. I was dead inside. Just didn't realise it until she made me feel alive again." "What are you naming the baby?" "If it's a boy, Jabari. Means brave in Swahili. If it's a girl, Seo-yun." He saw Sung-min's shocked expression. "My first love would have wanted me to find happiness again. This honours her memory while celebrating my future." The baby arrived 3 weeks early on a snowy Boston morning. Labour was long and difficult. Daywan held Samantha's hand through all of it, coaching her breathing, wiping her tears, being her anchor. When the baby finally came, a healthy girl with a powerful cry, he broke down completely. "She's perfect," he sobbed, holding his daughter for the first time. "She's absolutely perfect." Samantha, exhausted and glowing, watched her husband fall in love with their child. "Hello, Seo-yun. Welcome to our crazy family." Fatherhood transformed Daywan completely. The man who'd once ruled Boston's underworld with an iron fist now sang lullabies at 3 in the morning and cried when his daughter smiled. He was completely wrapped around her tiny finger. One evening, when Seo-yun was 3 months old, Samantha found Daywan standing over the crib, just watching their daughter sleep. "What are you thinking?" she asked softly. "That I don't deserve this, any of it. You, her, this life. I've done terrible things, hurt people, destroyed families. I should be in prison, not standing here holding perfection." Samantha wrapped her arms around him from behind. "You've paid for your past. You've changed, built something good. Don't let old guilt steal current joy. I just want to be worthy of you both. You already are. You prove it every day." They stood together in the nursery, watching their daughter sleep, marvelling at the impossible journey that had brought them here, from a forced marriage and mutual hatred to genuine love and a family. from darkness to light. A year after Seo-yun's birth, they visited Tanzania again. Samantha's village welcomed the baby with overwhelming joy, throwing another massive celebration. Children surrounded the little girl, aunties fought over who got to hold her, and Samantha's father finally, truly, forgave Daywan. "You kept your promises," he admitted, "made my daughter happy, gave her a good life, honoured our family. I was wrong to judge you only by your past. My past deserved judgment, but thank you for letting me build a better future." On their last night in Tanzania, Daywan and Samantha walked through the village under a sky full of stars. Seo-yun slept against Daywan's chest, peaceful and safe. They'd come so far from that terrible wedding day in Boston. "Do you remember the first thing I said to you?" Samantha asked. "That I couldn't make you scream in bed, that you'd never give me that satisfaction." Smiled. "You were fierce, even terrified. I was so scared, so angry. I thought my life was over. It wasn't over. It was beginning. We just didn't know it yet." He stopped walking, turning to face her. "Thank you for not giving up on me, on us. You saw something worth saving when I'd written myself off as unsavable. You did the same for me. Saved me from Victor, gave me freedom within your world. Let me keep my identity while building a new one." She touched his face gently. "We saved each other. And we'll keep saving each other. Every day. Forever." They kissed under those Tanzanian stars, their daughter between them, their hearts finally whole. The journey from forced marriage to true love hadn't been easy or simple or anything like a fairy tale. It had been messy and painful and complicated, but it was real, and real was so much better than perfect. Back in Boston, life settled into beautiful routine. Samantha ran her community centres while managing motherhood. Daywan expanded his security business while being the most devoted father anyone had ever seen. They hosted dinners mixing all their cultures, travelled between Tanzania and Boston regularly, and built a life neither had imagined possible. On their 3rd anniversary, the real one counting from their Tanzanian wedding, Daywan surprised Samantha with a trip to Seoul. "I want to show you where I came from, introduce you to the few family members I have left, close that circle." In Korea, they visited his parents' graves, told them about their granddaughter, and found peace with the past. They ate amazing food, explored beautiful places, and Daywan slowly opened up about the boy he'd been before violence hardened him into the Ice King. "I wish I'd known that boy," Samantha said one evening. "He's still in here somewhere. You've been finding him piece by piece." "Good. I like him." Their last night in Seoul, staying in a traditional hanok, they made love slowly and deliberately, celebrating everything they'd become together. Afterward, tangled in sheets, Daywan traced patterns on her skin. "I need to tell you something," he said seriously. "Something I've never said to anyone." "What is it?" "You make me scream now, not in bed. Well, sometimes in bed. But you make me scream with joy, with laughter, with life. You took a dead man and made him feel everything again. That's the greatest gift anyone's ever given me." Samantha's eyes filled with tears. She remembered that first night, her defiant words, his cold response, how far they'd travelled from those broken people. "I scream too, with happiness, with love, with gratitude for this impossible life we've built." They held each other as Seoul's night sounds filtered through the windows. Two people who'd started as strangers, forced together by circumstance, and became soulmates by choice. The past would always be there, shadows they couldn't erase, but the present was bright, and the future stretched ahead full of possibility and promise, and the kind of love that only comes from fighting through hell together and choosing to stay. Their story wasn't perfect, but it was theirs, and that made it the most beautiful story either of them had ever known. 5 years painted their lives in colours neither had dreamed possible. Samantha stood in the headquarters of her non-profit organisation, looking at the wall covered with photos from community centres across New England. What had started as one small location in Roxbury had grown to 12 centres, serving thousands of immigrant families. Her dream had become reality, built one family at a time, one child at a time, one hopeful moment at a time. "Mama, look what I drew!" Seo-yun ran in, her black pigtails bouncing, clutching a crayon picture. At 5 years old, she was fearless and bright, speaking 3 languages fluently and charming everyone she met. "It's beautiful, baby. What is it?" "Our family. See, that's you, that's Daddy, that's me, and that's baby brother." She pointed to a round bump on the drawing of Samantha. Samantha's hand went to her belly automatically. 4 months pregnant with their second child, a boy they'd already named Jabari. Seo-yun had been thrilled to learn she'd be a big sister, already bossing the baby even though he wasn't born yet. "Perfect. Daddy will love this." She kissed her daughter's forehead. "He should be here soon to pick us up." Right on cue, Daywan appeared in the doorway. At 50, he wore his age well, more distinguished than old, with silver threading through his black hair. The scars remained, but they seemed softer now, like his whole face had softened over the years. He lit up when he saw his girls. "There are my 2 favourite people." He scooped up Seo-yun, who squealed with delight. "Daddy, I drew us. Show me everything." Watching them together, Samantha felt overwhelming gratitude. This man who'd once been called the Ice King, who'd ruled through fear and violence, was now the warmest father she'd ever seen. Patient, playful, completely devoted to his daughter. They drove to Cambridge for a special event. Harvard's Kennedy School was honouring Daywan for his work transforming criminal enterprises into legitimate businesses and funding youth programs throughout Boston. The former crime lord had become a philanthropist and advocate for reform, speaking at conferences about second chances and redemption. "Nervous?" Samantha asked as they parked. "Always. Public speaking still terrifies me more than any gun did." But he smiled, taking her hand. "Having you here helps." The ceremony was elegant and moving. Professors praised Daywan's transformation. Business leaders discussed his successful companies. Community members testified about how his funding had changed neighbourhoods. When he took the stage to accept the award, Samantha saw her husband's hands shake slightly. 20 years ago, I was a different person," he began, cold, violent, convinced I'd never be more than the worst things I'd done. Then life gave me an unexpected gift, a forced marriage that became a real partnership, a wife who saw past the monster to the man underneath, a chance to choose something better. He looked directly at Samantha in the audience. "I don't deserve redemption. The people I hurt, the damage I caused, it can't be erased. But my wife taught me that you don't need to deserve second chances to take them. You just need to work every day to become someone worthy of the grace you've been given." So I work, I build, I try to put more good into the world than the evil I once spread, and I hope someday the scales might balance. Standing ovation, tears throughout the room. Samantha cried too, proud beyond words of how far he'd come. After the ceremony, dozens of people wanted to meet him, shake his hand, discuss his journey. He was patient with everyone, but his eyes kept finding Samantha and Seo-yun, making sure they were okay. Driving home, Seo-yun asleep in the back, Daywan reached over and took Samantha's hand. "Thank you for coming. I know these events bore you. They don't bore me. I love watching people see the man I see every day. The good man, the changed man." I'm only good because you made me want to be. Before you, I'd given up on myself completely. We saved each other, remember? I was a scared girl being sold off to settle debts. You gave me safety, purpose, eventually love. We're even. We'll never be even. You gave up your youth, your freedom, your dreams of a normal life, all because your father made terrible choices. Stop. Samantha squeezed his hand. We're not doing this again. Yes, how we started was wrong. Terrible. But look at what we built from that darkness. Look at our daughter, our son coming, our life. Would you trade any of this to change the past? Never. But I still wish I'd met you differently. Better. The universe knew we needed the hard path. We wouldn't have appreciated this life if it came easy. They reached their brownstone as sunset painted Boston gold. Inside, the house smelled like Grace's cooking. The elderly Tanzanian woman had become like a grandmother to Seo-yun, visiting often to help with childcare and teaching traditional recipes. There's my girl! Grace swept Seo-yun into her arms. Did you have fun? Daddy got an award. Everyone clapped and clapped. Of course they did. Your daddy is very special. Park Sung-min appeared from the kitchen, an apron on, attempting to help cook. He'd become like family over the years, Uncle Min to Seo-yun. How was the Harvard thing? Pretentious but nice, Daywan said, loosening his tie. Is that smell what I think it is? Yes, Grace is making your favourite. Also, you got 3 interview requests, a consultation offer from San Francisco, and your mother-in-law called. She's coming next month to help when the baby arrives. Daywan groaned. She's going to rearrange my entire house again, and you'll let her because you're terrified of her, Samantha laughed. Everyone's terrified of her. She's scarier than anyone I met in the criminal world. That night, after Seo-yun was tucked in bed and Grace and Sung-min had left, Samantha and Daywan sat on their back porch under stars, his hand resting on her pregnant belly. Inside, their daughter slept peacefully. Around them, the neighbourhood was quiet and safe. Do you ever miss it? Samantha asked. The power, the adrenaline, the empire? Never. That life was empty. I had everything and felt nothing. He kissed her temple. This life is messy and complicated, and I feel everything constantly. Fear when you're sick, joy when Seo-yun laughs, exhaustion after changing diapers. It's real. That's worth more than any empire. What do you think Seo-yun would have thought? Your first love. Daywan was quiet for a moment, thinking about the woman who died because of him. I think she'd be happy I found you. She always said I deserved love, deserved softness despite my hard edges. I didn't believe her then. You made me believe it. Baby Jabari kicked strongly, making them both laugh. He's going to be a fighter, Samantha predicted. With you as his mother and me as his father, he doesn't stand a chance of being calm. They sat in comfortable silence, feeling their son move, planning the future. Tomorrow, Samantha had meetings about opening centres in Providence and Portland. Daywan had security consultations and a speech at a prison about reform programmes. Life was busy, full, purposeful. Tell me something, Samantha said suddenly. That first night, our wedding night, when you walked away, were you really being noble, or were you terrified? Both. Terrified of hurting you, terrified of caring about you, terrified of becoming my father who used force instead of respect. But also, I looked at your face and saw my sister. You never told me you had a sister. I don't talk about her much. She died when I was 17, killed by the same people who murdered my parents. She was your age, 19, beautiful and innocent. When you said I couldn't make you scream, I heard her voice in my head saying the same thing to her captors before they killed her. I couldn't be that kind of man, couldn't repeat that cycle. Tears rolled down Samantha's face. I never knew. I'm so sorry. Don't be. She's why I saved you from Victor initially, saw a girl being traded like property, and remembered my sister's fear. Everything else, the love and marriage and family, that came later, but she guided me to you even from death. So, in a way, I have her to thank for all of this. They held each other as night deepened, two people carrying so much pain who'd somehow built something beautiful together. Their scars hadn't disappeared. They just didn't define them anymore. 3 months later, Jabari arrived during a spring storm that knocked out power across Boston. Labour was fast and intense, the baby apparently impatient to enter the world. Daywan coached, Samantha through it by candlelight, their daughter sleeping through the excitement in a nearby room. When their son finally came, healthy and loud, Daywan held both his children and cried harder than Samantha had ever seen. I have everything. How did I get so lucky? Not luck, choice. We chose this life every single day. Bringing baby Jabari home felt like completing their family puzzle. Seo-yun was fascinated by her brother, wanting to help with everything. Daywan was somehow even more devoted than he'd been with their first child, getting up for every night feeding, singing Korean lullabies his own mother had sung to him. Samantha's mother stayed for 3 months, as promised, rearranging everything and driving Daywan crazy while also supporting them beautifully. Grace visited daily, bringing food and wisdom. Sungmin became Uncle Min to a second child, awkward with the baby but trying his best. On their 5th real anniversary, counting from Tanzania, they renewed their vows again, this time in their brownstone backyard, surrounded only by close family and friends. Simple, intimate, perfect. 5 years ago, we chose each other for real, Daywan said, holding Samantha's hands while their children played nearby. Every day since, I've been grateful for that choice. You took a broken man and showed him how to heal, gave me a family I never thought I'd deserve, made me believe in second chances and redemption and love. I promise to spend every remaining day of my life being worthy of you. Samantha's vows came through tears. 5 years ago, I was terrified of forever with you. Now I'm terrified of any day without you. You've been my protector, my partner, my best friend. You've given me freedom, purpose, a family that spans continents and cultures. You've become the man you were always meant to be, and I'm honoured to walk beside you. I love you more today than yesterday, less than tomorrow, forever. They kissed while everyone cheered. Seo-yun yelled, "You!" and covered her eyes. Baby Jabari gurgled happily. Grace cried. Sungmin took approximately 500 photos. It was chaos and love and everything good. That evening, after everyone left and children were sleeping, Samantha found Daywan in Jabari's nursery, just watching their son sleep like he'd done with Seo-yun years before. "What are you thinking?" she asked, though she already knew. "That I don't want to miss a single moment. Every second with you, with them, it's precious. I wasted so many years being dead inside. Now I'm alive, and I want to soak up every bit of this life. We have decades ahead of us. Don't worry about time. I know. But after losing everyone, after being alone so long, sometimes I still can't believe this is real, that I get to keep you all." Samantha wrapped her arms around him from behind, resting her head on his back. "It's real. We're real, and we're not going anywhere." They stood together in the dim nursery, listening to their baby breathe, feeling their daughter safe down the hall, grateful for the impossible journey that had brought them here. From a church in Boston, where a terrified girl married a dangerous stranger, to Tanzania, where that same couple chose each other freely. To this moment, this life, this family they'd built from ashes and determination. "You know what's funny?" Daywan said quietly. "That first night, you said I couldn't make you scream in bed. Now you do, but from completely different reasons." Samantha laughed softly. "From happiness, from pleasure, from you being a terrible dancer, from our daughter's jokes, from labour, from joy so big I have to scream or explode. Exactly, we scream together now. At life, at each other, at the beautiful chaos we've created. I wouldn't change anything. Neither would I." They left the nursery, checked on Seo-yun one more time, then went to their own room. Not the master bedroom from the mansion, but a normal room in a normal house with normal problems and extraordinary love. Later, tangled in sheets, Daywan traced the scar on Samantha's belly from her C-section with Jabari, battle wounds from creating life, beautiful marks of what they'd survived together. "Promise me something," he whispered. "Anything. Never stop screaming. When you're happy, when you're angry, when life is too much or too good. Scream it all out. Don't ever go quiet on me. I promise. You too. No more Ice King silence. We feel everything out loud now. Deal." They made love slowly, tenderly, like they had all the time in the world because they did. No more threats, no more enemies, no more fighting for survival. Just two people who'd found forever in the last place, either expected. Morning came gentle and warm. Seo-yun burst into their room, demanding pancakes. Jabari woke up hungry and loud, the house filled with noise and chaos and life. Daywan burned the first batch of pancakes. Samantha spilled coffee on her shirt. The baby needed changing immediately. Their daughter sang off-key at top volume. It was messy and imperfect and absolutely perfect. As they sat around the table, food everywhere, children being loud, arguing about whose turn it was to clean up, Samantha caught Daywan's eye across the chaos. He smiled that soft smile he only ever gave her and their children, the smile that said he was home. She smiled back, her heart so full it hurt. They'd started in darkness, in force and fear and anger, but they'd chosen light, chosen each other, chosen to build something beautiful from something broken, and that choice, made every single day for 5 years and counting, that was the real love story. Not how they began, but how they continued, how they fought for each other, for their family, for this impossible, improbable, absolutely perfect life they'd created together. Outside, Boston woke to another day. Inside their brownstone, the Kang family lived and loved and screamed with joy at the beautiful chaos of it all. Their story didn't end with happily ever after because the story wasn't over. It was still being written, one messy, loving, loud day at a time, and that was exactly how they wanted it. Forever wasn't a destination. It was a choice, and they chose it together. Every single day, screaming with joy all the way. If you loved Samantha and Daywan's journey from forced marriage to true love, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss our next story. Drop a comment below telling us where you're watching from and whether you believed in their love from the beginning or if they won you over along the way. And if this story touched your heart, smash that like button and share it with someone who loves a good romance with a happy ending.